And I wanted to start off globally as well, and then get to a specific case study example about how we are addressing this. This is not new news. This is photographs from the window of my hotel in Beijing. And as you can see, one is 400 parts per million, the other is 37 parts per million. And this problem is not going to go away without major movement. And in our work, both in the US and in China, everybody now is getting on board and wants to do something about it, and that's a great thing. In our work, there's a fundamental approach that we use, which is the foundation of the approach for all of our work, and that is combining simultaneously livability, which is the quality of life, with mobility, the issues we're talking about today primarily, and sustainability, which is the great technical catch-all for doing green buildings and green cities. But they must all happen together. You can't do one without the other. And just as an illustration, I show that each of these then breaks down into a long address and agenda of items that need to be fulfilled. So it becomes a fairly complex matrix, because each of these line items then drills into a whole series of things. The other piece, fundamentally, is that all of these things and all of the specializations that are out there that are talked about in our separate programs throughout the sessions have to happen at the same time and have to be integrated with the client, with the agencies and everyone else, so that without that you would have a much less efficient process, which is what we've been at, and what we have to get to is this more integrated process. In Guangzhou, we were asked first to do the north axis area of Guangzhou, and then the south axis area, and this is like about 20 square miles of urban development in an existing urban context. And the main thing that we did was to create a transit-based, legible organization for the heart of what is really the emerging newer center of Guangzhou. And the idea was to try and address some of the chaos of before with a transit-based and people-based system. And here is the north axis portion of the site. And in the north axis, the plan was beginning to be developed, but it was car-centric. And you couldn't even cross the street to get to anything, which is one of the things about Guangzhou. So over the last 5-6 years, we've kind of turned that on its head and driven very hard at the idea of density and amenity together, but also the walkability that connects you from one place to another. And as you will probably all know in this audience, the introduction of the green space is essential to the reduction of the heat island effect of cities, which is, as part of the global warming, a very focused, vicious cycle. And so moving from the amenity side to the transportation side, then let's talk about what we are trying to do. And again, this integration process is, as the previous speaker said, it's an integration of multiple transportation systems. So it's not only subway, for example, but it's also combining that with light rail, combining it with high-capacity monorail, and in Beijing case, I've been discussing with them a maglev monorail system, which has a much higher pedestrian people count capacity because it's got a lot more energy within it. And that's a low-speed monorail system. And then, of course, BRT, which is the entry level, the buses with the dedicated lanes. So in the Guangzhou example, in the south axis, you can see that the layout is amenity-driven in its organization, but equally importantly, transportation-driven, and the densities are related to the stations and the nodes of the metro system and the new light rail system that we've designed into this south axis area. So let's go now to the example. The example is a project we're working on in San Francisco, and the Transbay Transit District, which is just emerging now, and it's going to become an ever important hub and a very good example of transit-based development. This is San Francisco not so long ago, and this is the Transbay Center, and in this area, the new high-speed rail, bus, light rail station is being built. This is called Rincon Hill. This is a high-density residential, and they're all getting hooked together. The other thing I wanted to point out about San Francisco as a lead-in to this is San Francisco is one of the first early cities, starting back in 1958, which said, no more cars destroying our city. The priorities are wrong, and we had a freeway revolt in 1958, and we stopped all the freeways. No more freeways, and then we started tearing them down. And it's been actually a magnificent transformation, and no, there's no terrible fallout in the vehicular world. And then layered on that was a transit first policy. And transit first policy is not only do we want to control the cars, but we don't ultimately even want them. We want people to be using every other means of getting around that they can, and kind of push the car out of the equation. And again, it's being increasingly sensitive, and it's being increasingly successful. And San Francisco these days is a great magnet for tech companies and others because people want to be there because of quality of life issues. And the other side of that coin is the threats in places like Beijing and Shanghai, where people are not wanting to be there anymore because of quality of life issues. So the next major step was San Francisco's downtown plan, and the essential element of that was a compact downtown. Not a sprawling downtown, but a compact, fairly high-density downtown. And in the heart of this, on the south side of Market Street, is the Transbay Center. So as you can see, there's been a multiplicity of policies driving us to where we are today. It didn't just happen because somebody wanted it, or it didn't happen overnight. And so we have Rincon Hill emerging here, and the Transbay Transit Center here. I'm going to be talking about this project right here called 181, and this is the Transbay Tower, and this is a new project at First and Mission as well. So the Transit Center is the hub of the Bay Area, and it's intended through its development to continue to be that. So there's a kind of an economic driver as well as an environmental sustainability driver. The plan itself takes the district and develop it. And what's interesting about this slide is this is from about, I'm thinking about early to mid-90s. And what's really interesting here is San Francisco is such a protective area that you know, they thought this was big time, all these little buildings. This was going to be big time. And the world has changed, and San Francisco has become global, and now it's about this. And it's much better for it. So here's our high-speed rail / Caltrain / bus terminal, and it has a 5-acre roof top garden on it. And it's being built. It's under construction. There's a whole plan for the higher density buildings with height bonuses they get in return for helping subsidize the financing of this new center. And 181 Fremont is in that area right next to the station and on the opposite side from the Transbay Tower itself. This is today being about 4 years ago, and this is the ultimate plan with high-density towers, very walkable streets, and an open space plan all integrated with that more intense development. 181 Fremont, as I said, is in a very good spot, immediately adjacent to the transit center. The Transbay Tower itself is right here. And so this is an early illustration of it. 181 is this project, and layered onto its transit proximity, it's a mixed-use project, and it is residential on the top portion and office on the lower portion, so it's a jobs, housing, balance intended project, and with an amenity floor in the middle. This is a very early concept diagram we did using an exoskeletal approach and taking advantage of that. And here's an animation, shows the way the tapering and the geometry of the building moves to the top. We used a model which we still use, having developed it over the years. In addition to the computer, the model is extremely valuable as a tool for evaluating what we can do in terms of height, mass, and density in the downtown area. And I brought this up to show you a fight that we lost. And the fight we lost was that this is what we wanted for heights, and this was in the plan originally, which is about a 1,200-foot tower for the Transbay and about 900 for us. And the fight was lost in that stuff started going down in height. And that was a phenomenon brought on by San Francisco kind of can't help itself. There it is, the way it is. And also shadow issues, which are quality of life issues in our city. And so shadows on parks. So not a terrible loss, really, because the building as it emerged, this is it today. Again, this is all residential. This is an amenity floor for the building. And this is the office section, so it's a 1/3, 2/3 split. And this is the rooftop garden. Transbay Tower's over here. I cut it off because I didn't want to have it too much in my picture. And we have a bridge connection to the roof garden, which I'll talk about a little bit further. So the transit center, the garden, the building, the relationship of the garden and the buildings is quite great, I think. And here you can see the way this works. And there's a series of buildings that are happening around the transit center. On our ground floor, what we have is our relationship to the transit center here, existing open space here, and cutting a section, interesting technical issue, which is that the box for the trains has a certain kind of geotechnical impact and implication, and so our box has to be at the same height as their box, and we stuff all our cars and equipment into that. But we were driven by technical reasons to be at exactly the same place. Our bridge is up here, and the roof garden's right here. So on the 5th level of the building, we have an amenity level with retail, and it's publicly accessible during the day. But more importantly, what happens is that people can come here by train, by bus, whichever forms are serving the area. They can take the escalator to the roof garden and go directly into the building, and maybe have a cup of coffee on the way. And in the evening, they can do the reverse. And the residents can come down to this terrace area and go out on the roof garden. So it's the bridging thing that was talked about this morning a bit, and it's really happening. Unfortunately, it's only going to be ultimately maybe 3 or 4 buildings that are able to do it, but we're quite excited that we're one of them. Talking a little bit about the building a little further, it's going to be LEED Platinum. The geometry of the skin is made to reduce solar loading passively, so there's about a 6% lowering of solar impact on the building just because of the geometry. And also the building shape makes for an interesting aspect. Here's the relationship of the building to some of the older structure and the new transit center as a transition element. The ground floor, because of the exoskeletal structure, is column-free on the perimeter. So it'll have a kind of a marvelous indoor-outdoor aspect to the gardens around it on the south and on the east. Like I said, LEED Platinum. Interestingly, we went from gold to platinum for less than 1% of the cost of the building. So, that was a powerful statement about how this is all trending. And to kind of summarize about the building, There are several things going on here. Transit-oriented development is the main thing in relationship to this talk, but in addition to that, it's mixed use in jobs housing, although it's not cheap housing. It's a very efficient structure because of the exoskeletal aspect. It has a solar passive skin. It has active systems, obviously, in order to achieve the platinum rating. And it has the pedestrian connections not only at the ground, but also at the upper level. So we're hoping it becomes a real role model for what to do with these kinds of projects. And I'd like to see here in China much more of this kind of thing around, clustered around the high-speed rail stations. In fact, I'm in active discussions with the various planners and officials about that. Final comment is that, so we're doing new LEED Platinum here. Our office is at the base of the Trans-America building, which was built in 1971 and had nothing for sustainability and has been retrofitted to platinum. It has a cogeneration plant. They save $600,000 a year on their energy bill, so the payback on the cogeneration is about 4.8 years. Pretty great stuff. Finally, the other project over here, this is with a group called TMG. This is the Transbay Tower. This is 181. And this is something we're working on with Foster and Partners. I think it'll be a very exciting new phase for the Transbay Terminal area. And since nobody's thrown me out yet, I will take a moment and show you a video we have on the building.